everybody in the room. Been around them, so. No vested interest at all. Like, I just have experience. Only person here been on the board, a year and a half. Coach, 2 years. What else? Had a coach for 2 years, a year and a half anyway. Yeah, I mean, basically, I guess I've seen everything. I was a board member for a year and a half. I was on the budget committee. I was on the tournament committee. According to some people, I was thrown off. I resigned before that happened. So, do you guys have any questions about things that happened in the boardroom before I address some things that are not correct about it?
We do not at this point.
Okay, so their removal, Ramsey and Gary, yes, their removal was not voted on by the board. I was on the board at that time. They're 100% correct that Mark Barton was voted in, but not properly. We actually had a meeting, I don't know, 2 meetings before that about how we're changing the bylaws, and every single board member coming in, previous or not, was to go through an extensive interview process before being brought on. They just didn't, basically the way it was really working out, they were vetting their own board which I didn't really agree with, but they were vetting their own board, including myself, to kind of create an environment that basically, was cohesive, I guess, in what Mark's vision was.
Were there board members that wanted to get on board that weren't part of it?
Yes, this would be,
He was voted.
Caleb was one, Gary came on, well, kind of came on,
They weren't
Ramsey.
allowed to be voted on by the.
I do not know, I didn't see any votes for anybody actually for this. Like, they were just there for the most part, and we were taking people in because we couldn't make quorum.
Right.
Half of our quorum sat on a cell phone
Right.
that basically just attended the meeting by cell phone, didn't really,
But were there people that wanted to be on the board that
Hold
were?
on, Gary, you might get conflict.
I'm just asking questions.
yes,
so I
yes,
know.
yes, yes.
Hold on.
No, it's okay, he should ask a question, because I'll answer it. Yes, they did want to be on the board.
Okay.
As far as I know, they wanted to be on the board. After a month or two, it was very obvious in one of our meetings, they did not want them on the board. And we did not vote them on, they were basically told to leave. Caleb, I don't even think got that far, if I remember right.
No.
They brought on another board member, another person from the team that I was on, which was also Dave Stewart's team that he was coaching. So that's kind of how the board thing went. I mean, very quickly I saw that this was I believe I called a yes board. If you don't say yes, like, to what's going on, you're gonna, you may get it right, but really your child will probably get it right. So the way that really worked out, somebody mentioned raises. Yes, I was there for Mark European's raise. First person voted in, Dave Stewart. We did not beat the numbers as far as I understood. It was just given because he's a hard worker. I was second to vote in. Why not? Yeah, that's how the boards run. Everything was why not. In the very beginning, though, the reason I left, I didn't really agree with Dave's coaching tactics. I coach as well, so you don't agree with every coach. My daughter, my oldest, has been through, 8 coaches now in just like a period of 4 years. Maybe 3 years, actually. Just coaching changes. We've changed clubs. Like I said, I haven't been here for 2 years. I was pretty much only invited because I was the only one here that has been part of the board. Coached, had multiple conversations. I originally came to the board and became a board member because, like these guys, there was no representation. And I read through the CSA bylaws as far as like representation. I'm not sure if those are your bylaws, and every club should adopt those bylaws, but not every facet of altitude is being represented. I was the only child on an 8-person board with a rec player. So I was there to represent that. And I tried to help Mark with that, as in customer service is lacking. Like, all I hear is people complain. I was there to try to mitigate that a little bit. In the meetings, I was told developmental makes up the money. That's where all the numbers are. So why are we not helping out with that? Was my question. That's why I was on the board. I was there to help, not to bring people down, not to get people out of office, I'm not here for that either. Like, the club needs to exist. It's got to exist for the kids. It has to. They have to find a way as board members to figure out how to get that done. That's why I was there. The reason that I left, not got fired, was Dave and I weren't getting along, basically. Like, we actually had a face-to-face conversation, not via email, about how he is not a good coach for my child. My child cried 3 times a week. And so, and she wanted to be here to actually talk to you about it, and I was like, no way. That was tough. That was tough. It was a tough year. And so anyway, what I told Mark Bierfein is Dave is no longer his coach, right? He's point blank, he will not coach next year. And I was like, okay. So, knowing Mark, it's his word, whatever. So I basically go down and we sign up for multiple tryouts because Dave Stewart's not coaching, that's awesome. Great, my daughter's gonna have a great time. We want to stay in altitude, but we're gonna go to another one. And so at one game at a tournament, I had conversations because other parents that were on my team said, hey, what are you gonna do with Reese? She can't play for STU anymore, right? And I was like, she cannot. I was like, her choices are try out somewhere else or go to the B team, which were her choices. They were given to her as that choice. So how it all transpired, basically Stu shows up at tryouts, was not supposed to coach, but my daughter's there, that she didn't really ever want to play for him again. She had been really crushed that whole season by him. And I put up with it. I feel bad because I have always taught her to respect her coaches. But she came off the field crying nonstop, and she shouldn't have ever had to deal with that. I did talk to Mark Bierfein about that, and he basically let it go. I mean, he didn't really care, and I'm there for the kids. I'm a kids dude. Like I just am. Like, it's just how it is. That's what this should be about. But anyway, I'm gonna get to that real quick. So basically what happened is she ended up going to tryouts. Basically what Stu had told Mark Bierfein is that I, at that one game when we were talking about her tryout with another club, was recruiting with parents. And so when she ended out tryouts, she never got an invite, ever. And I called Mark Bierfein, my daughter's crying, she's like, I didn't get an invite for B team. I didn't get anything, nothing, like no email. Everyone else, all the other players had their invites. My daughter did not get one. He finally talks to me 3 days later after the weekend had gone by, after tryouts. So this is probably 5 or 6 days after tryouts. Hey, we need to talk. Come in the office. I'm really upset with you, Scott. You basically I'm about ready to throw you off the board. So basically he's threatening me right there. He's like, I want to take you off the board. I want to take you off all the committees, and I'm not going to let you come back to this club. I go, why is this? What's the problem? Because you're recruiting for another club. Well, who told you that? Well, I already knew. I already knew who told him that, right? And so then I was like, well, who told him that? Oh, well, I already know the 3 people I talked to, and basically when I talked to them, they're like, no, I didn't say that. I just said, you're looking at another club. Great. So my problem really was, I sat there with Mark Bierfein for 2.5 hours. I actually recorded the conversation, wish I would have kept it, but I tried to get rid of the bad things. Basically, what it came down to, that end result was like, I sat there with Mark Bierfein after 2 hours and I was like, I can't believe that my daughter cried for 3 days because you thought I was recruiting. I was like, with no actual facts of me recruiting. I'm like, that had nothing to do with any of it. For me as a parent, he should have called me that weekend, but you know what he says? Like, I was too mad, I couldn't even talk to you that weekend, I was just gonna throw you off the board. He may or may not have had that power, I don't know. But basically, that is how everything transpired with me leaving the board. I said, I can't believe that you would punish my daughter, you would punish her like that because you had an issue with me over something that your president said, which we know we have an issue with already. And he knew that going into it.
Are you close?
Yes. And so the whole reason I left, the whole reason I'm here, is I believe you're just allowing the cycle over and over again. They keep on punishing children. The children are the ones being punished for parents speaking out. I don't really understand that. I don't think anybody here wants altitude to go away. The financials, whatever. I mean, if you guys have questions about that, whatever. But I know there were board meetings held that, did not meet anything. Like in every board meeting where they were supposed to address problems, solutions. Never in one board meeting did I ever see hear a problem or a solution. You know, like, there were just things that board members should have had. As far as the board members being voted in, they go through it first. They aren't gonna vote anybody in that represents other facets that don't really come in line with what they want. It's true, Dave just kind of took the position as president because there was nobody else to do it. I was asked to do it and I was like, I didn't want to. I just had too much on my plate. But what transpired from that was then they kind of picked and chose through everything. Executive meetings never involved anybody else. It truly was Dave and Mark as an executive meeting and they talked about other people.
Okay.
Board members did not vote on
All right.
Charlie.
Can we get Charlie, the last one?
Yeah.
Charlie Lynch?
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Hi, my name is Charles Lynch. I used to be a volunteer coach for the rec league. First of all, I'd like to say that I asked several families who are current members if they were interested in coming here. I asked three families.
I'm sorry. What's your name again?
Oh, Charles Lynch.
Charles Lynch. thank you.
Sorry, I'm fighting a cold here. Each one of those families said that they did not want to show up because they wanted their kids to continue to play. I said, well, what do you mean by that? They said, well, we're afraid if we're seen there that we'll be put on a blacklist, basically. I said, okay, I understand. I wanted to see if you wanted to be involved in this. Second of all, when I was a coach, parents on my team never wanted to ask Mark questions. And I said, why don't you want to ask him questions? Because we don't want to fight with him. They're simple questions. So I said, I'll take your questions and I'll go ask them. And this happened probably 5 or 6 times. Each time I went in to his office or called him, his first response was, well, which families are asking these questions? And I refused to give them. I said, they're families on my team. I said, I want to know as well. And then he would answer the questions as best he could. You got my email? Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
Not at this time.
Okay. I just want to tell you about my daughter. When she was 10 years old, she told me that she was interested in playing high school soccer. And I said, if you want to play high school soccer, you better get into the competitive side of it. I said, this rec just isn't going to happen. You need a real coach, not dad who knows nothing about soccer. And Peter Jeans, I'm sure will contest to that. I called Mark and inquired about her playing competitive. And this was in, I suppose, January. He said, we only do tryouts in the fall for the whole year. I said, okay, I wasn't aware of that. But he said, I will allow you to have her come to one of my practices and I will evaluate her. I said, okay, good. Maybe this is clear. Maybe there's no problem anymore. So I showed up to practice an hour and 15 minutes later. My daughter was in the car. I said, well, how was it? She goes, there's only 6 kids at the practice. And Mark hardly ever watching me. He was watching the other kids all the time. And I thought, well, maybe he was. He just didn't realize it. So it takes me 12 minutes to get home. When I got home, there was already a message on my phone from Mark saying, her skill level was not up to par, but I will place her on a lower level. I said, okay, we'll do this. She can prove herself to the coach. Now, I'm not one of these parents who says, my kid's going to be a pro. I don't live through my kids' successes at all. I played sports all my life. I continue to play sports. I know the value of sportsmanship, how to be a good winner, a good loser. So we decided, after she got on this other team, we went to all of her games. Every single game we went to, she just dominated. And I thought, why is she on this team? She should be on a higher team. So the following season, we sent her to a club down in Denver. So instead of driving 7 miles to practice, we now drive 25 miles to practice. And after 3 seasons, she plays a full game at center mid at the platinum level, which I just cannot help but think that he used my daughter to get back at me. She fits in right with the kids down there, but boy, would I love to bring her back to Evergreen and play with kids that she will be eventually, hopefully, playing at the high school level. That's all I have.
We're shooting close to time. So if there's anybody that wants to speak on 2 or 3 minutes or whatever, we'll get to you. This gentleman first and then that young lady back there.
I make this real quick. I know you guys think, I just sit on this side. I just quick,
Hey,
I'm not on
hey,
anybody's
go
side,
on.
guys. I'm not. I just came to find what's going on because I didn't know it was this big of a mess. First of all, I want to tell Ross, okay, because I think you got maligned a couple times, all right? Anytime I had an issue with my dog, Judy, Ross was always there to be encouraging. He never encouraged me to go to the play, but he did say that he can arrange trials for me. Ross has never done anything to recruit my daughter, so I think he's got maligned a little bit. Mark, I have never had a problem getting Mark back to me, never had a problem with Jim, never had with Dave. So I know there's a lot of hot tempers, and I'm not on one side or the other. I'm glad I hear. I didn't know it was this big of a mess. Unfortunately, my daughter only has a season left, so I'm sorry for your kids. I really am. But I don't think it was ever intent of anybody over here that way. So I just wanted to clear some.
How do you know that?
So just wanted to let you know.
Man, you have the floor.
Hi everybody, I'm Brooke Wedding. I'm just a mom. I'm a single mom. And I moved here a couple years ago from California and joined Altitude. And I struggled pretty much on a daily basis to figure out how I'm going to pay my fees on a monthly basis. My children were awarded a scholarship by Altitude my first year as I was going through a divorce, and I was extremely grateful. My son, my oldest son, if it wasn't for George, he suffers through depression from my divorce, and he loves coming to practice every day. It's one of the only things he loves. So I am so grateful and thankful to our wonderful coaches. I don't know what I'd do without you guys. I'm grateful for all our families in Evergreen. This is so sad for me because I want to see action happen that helps our community. My suggestions are, if I have a problem with something, I had a problem with we don't have referees. So I signed up to be a referee, probably the oldest female referee. But I love blowing the whistle, but it's fun. I want to help our kids. So what is another solution? Can we add marketing and some public relations to our board? We have wonderful people in our community that run PR firms to save our club. I represent a lot of people. I'm a team mom for Bo's team. I hear a lot. I let some stuff go in one ear, some out. But